Hello, everyone. It is 5 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Standard Time, 8 o'clock on the East Coast for all those who aren't really up with their time zones. And it is time for Train with the Coaches. This is a show where Sherry Ann and I talk about everything running, triathlon, trail running, nutrition, and everything else that you could possibly think of or want to ask questions about related. And hello, Sherry Ann. How are you?
I am fantastic, Coach. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. We have a very exciting show tonight. We just are back from an epic weekend in the Grand Canyon, and we're very, very fortunate tonight to have on the show a couple of our teammates from the Patagonia Expedition Race. Aaron Spurlock is with us. Brian Hay is with us. Obviously, you are here with us. We have one of our campers in the chat room with us tonight live, Rich Flint, and everyone, all four of you, did the rim to rim to rim run, and we're excited to recap the camp because it was just tons of epic fun.
Epic. I think sometimes the word epic can be overused, but in this situation, it was definitely epic. I mean, when you see something like the Grand Canyon on such a grand scale, I mean, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. So, I mean, that in of itself made it epic. But I do tend to think that it can be an overused word. But it was absolutely stellar. When you're looking at the edge of the South Rim and looking across to the North Rim, I couldn't even conceptualize where I was going to come up on the north side. And for all of us here on the call, except for Aaron, it was our first time doing rim to rim. So that in itself was pretty awesome. So it was nice to have Aaron there to help kind of give a little bit of guidance, you know, in the sense, but he was so humble and didn't really share too much. He let us all kind of experience it on our own, which was really nice, Aaron.
I tried to leave a few surprises for you.
Hey, okay, so I don't mean to interrupt everyone, but we're going to start over. And I'll tell you why. Sorry about that, Sherry Ann, but the dogs went on a barking frenzy because one of the neighbors left their dogs out of the house. So. And I muted my mic to the show, but I did not mute my mic to GarageBand. So let's get back here and get going again. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Hello, everyone. It is 5 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Central, and 8 o'clock on the East Coast for all those who aren't familiar with their time zones / Aaron Spurlock. And it is time for Train with the Coaches. This is a show where Coach Sherry Ann and I talk everything running, triathlon, nutrition, anything related that you would like to do. We're just back from our epic trip to the Grand Canyon this past weekend, and we're very fortunate to have some teammates and campers with us who were out in the canyon with us doing that epic rim-to-rim run. We have Aaron Spurlock from Pocatello, Idaho, who's one of our teammates, Brian Hay from Kansas City, Missouri, and Rich Flint from Florida. And, of course, Sherry Ann. How are you, Sherry Ann?
I am fantastic, Coach. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. And so we're going to jump right into talking about the camp so you can start all over where you left off.
Well, I was saying that you referenced it as it being epic, and I tend to think that the word epic gets overused a lot, but in this case, it was a very epic trip. I mean, with it being, you know, the Grand Canyon, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, you know, it deserves the term epic.
You know, from the moment we got to the rim the first time, you know, we all got there, and of course we couldn't find the rim, and how in the hell can you not find a 6,000 foot hole in the ground? But we wandered around trying to find it.
This kind of thing because it does happen to everyone.
Shane, you're gonna have to mute. You're gonna have to mute your microphone, Shane. Shane, mute your microphone. Okay, so Shane jumped in there. So anyway, you know, we had trouble finding the hole in the ground, but after we found it, I don't think my mouth closed for the next 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, how can it not? It's like I was saying earlier, we were standing on the South Rim, and when I was looking across at the North Rim, and I live in Arizona, so I've been to the canyon many times, but I've never ventured down into the canyon, let alone to the north side and back. But I was standing there looking at it, kind of going, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like to get to the other side and what it's going to look like from over there, because I know it's got to be a little different. But it was just, it was definitely eye-opening, mouth-dropping. There were so many times when I was going through the canyon where I would just stop and go, oh my gosh, like, and pictures just don't do it justice at all.
No, it was absolutely amazing. Rich, what were your first impressions? You were actually the first one there. You got there probably before anyone else arrived, and you got to go out to the canyon before we did. What was that like?
Yeah, I have to agree with Sherry Ann that pictures can't do it justice. You walk up to the edge and you look out and it's just amazing. A picture can show you what you see, but it can't show you what you feel. Mm-hmm. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and Aaron, you've been there. You've been to the canyon a few times before. Does it ever get old?
This was my 5th double crossing of the canyon, and it never fails to inspire. It was still an amazing trip. And, every time you go there, it's just absolutely beautiful there, and it never fails to leave my legs sore afterwards either.
Yeah, I think I could finally walk normally on Wednesday, and I didn't go all the way over and back like you guys did. Brian, you and Kevin Ward got to be the first guys to run across before the rest of us. And why don't you start talking about your experience? And it's your first time in a canyon too, right?
Yes, Jeff, you're correct. My first time, and I keep track of all the national parks I go to, and Grand Canyon never ranked that high. I was kind of like, it's a big hole in the ground. But Kevin and I went out there Wednesday night after we flew into Flagstaff and drove up, and stood on the edge, and we just looked at each other and went, oh yeah, it's on. And absolutely, I think like what Rich said, yeah, it takes your breath away. Yeah, you can see pictures and the colors come through, but yeah, just standing there and seeing the light play and dance across everything, it's stunning, and I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I don't know, Shane. You can unmute your microphone now if you got rid of all that noise in the background, and you can jump in and at any time and tell us what you were feeling. Here's the enormity of this. I actually really never had a desire to go to the Grand Canyon either. I lived in Las Vegas for a couple of years, 2 hours away, and I was never there. But when I lived in Vegas, I wasn't a trail runner, so I never really thought about that. And I said, well, let's have a camp in the Grand Canyon, do the rim to rim to rim, because a bunch of people, always talk about doing that, so let's go out and do it. So I set up the camp, and, Sherry Ann said, hey, I want to go too. So, we got there, and I thought, wow. And then you guys did this, this amazing thing. Because, look, I ran 20 miles. I ran 20 miles and couldn't walk for 3 days. You guys went 50. It's not 42 miles across the Grand Canyon and back. It's 50. And you really need to convey to the people. And I think what really got me is, you think you get down to the river and then it's kind of flat, but it never really gets flat anywhere, except that plateau where we made the wrong turn.
Yeah, I kind of had this idea that it would be this. I mean, I knew the elevation change going into it, but you just can't really wrap your mind around it. And I didn't know what across the canyon was going to be. I know you have a super, steep descent, and then you have to kind of go across the canyon floor before you do the ascent on the north side. But I didn't imagine it to be flat, but I certainly didn't imagine it to be like just this slow, almost nagging climb. It was like not really a climb, but it was just kind of like it was just always there. But you didn't really notice it because you were so busy looking around, but you really felt it on the way back, because then you didn't feel like it was nagging anymore because you were kind of going with it. So coming back was great, because then you could have just a little bit of a descent.
Guys, what did you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been there before, so I kind of knew what was in store. That long, slow climb up the north side is it's always a bit of a trial. Just to keep moving up there, and but it's always fun on the way back. It's nice cruiser grade on the way back.
Yeah, and you know one of the things that we ran into because we were early season, and I think part of the things we need to talk about while we're doing this is because people talk about going out there all the time. And there's this great big group on Facebook, Grand Canyon Rim to Rim group, and people are talking about going out there. And the next week, there's no water right now, other than what you take with you, the Phantom Ranch stop, and the river itself.
You can filter water like we did at Cottonwood.
Yeah.
Which worked out pretty good.
Or you can do it like Ian and Aaron did and just drink the water right out of the river.
We also had some snow.
There was, yeah. Oh, Dave's got some music going on.
Dave's got a soundtrack.
So yeah, Phantom Ranch is at about 10 miles in, I think, if I remember right. And then, yeah, from then on, you have to figure out how you're going to do your own water. And we found some places that it was coming right out of the rock that we felt like it was pretty safe. And then on the north side, there was snow. So when I got to the North Kaibab trailhead, I took my water bottles and just, cleaned off the top part of the snow and then just shoved snow into my water bottles, and it was nice because coming down I would shake a chunk of snow in my mouth and compress it and then just stick like the ice in my cheek, and it was just nice because it was just a slow drip. But yeah, I mean, you definitely have to plan your water situation, carry either tablets or a filtration system, and I was glad that Rich had a water filter because I used that at one point, so that was nice.
Yeah, so Rich was like the only smart one in our group. Brian and Esther were smart. They had filters with them. Rich was the only smart one in our group. Because I ran out of water at the bottom of the last climb up there, and that 4.5 miles was damn near wanted to kill me.
Yeah, and then it also should be noted, Kevin and I dropped in via South Kaibab.
Yeah.
And went north, and we came back Bright Angel.
Were there more water stations over on South Kaibab?
Well, we dropped in with 2 full bottles, so we didn't refill till Phantom Ranch.
Yeah.
And then we filled it up again at Cottonwood. We did make a kind of a tactical error on the way back. We hit Cottonwood on the way back in after failing to find the backcountry office at the North Rim to refill. So we ran from North Rim to Cottonwood on just under our bottle each. And then when we hit Cottonwood, we only refilled 1 bottle, thinking it was only, quote unquote, only 7 miles to Phantom Ranch. But at that time, even though it was pseudo downhill, the heat had come up pretty good into the 80s, and we probably hiked 3/4 of a mile into Phantom Ranch. But if you go through Phantom Ranch, you gotta get the lemonade or make an Arnie Palmer. They have iced tea as well.
Here's you said only, and I really love that word, and I'm going to ask Rich first because everyone tell me what goes through your mind, because I know what went through mine when someone said it's only 1.5 miles to the top now on the way back out. And John joined us too. John was there. John Rubidoux is now in the chat room with us as well. Hey John, how are you? So Rich, here you are. You're coming back up. It's the last climb, and you're only 1.5 miles from the top.
I think I was crying by that time, Jeff. 1.5 miles might as well have been 100. This whole run was tougher than the 100-miler I did in December and January. It was brutal, but unbelievably worth it.
Yeah, John, how did you feel? I mean, all throughout the run. I don't think John can hear me.
Use semaphore, John.
He can hear you. We can't hear him.
So, Sherry Ann and you guys and all of you, I think you tell people about what the terrain, what they should expect, because people say, oh, it sounds epic and it's really nice. But I'm telling you, it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
No.
Well, if I could, I started reading about this, 2-3 years ago and thinking, boy, that'd be great to do sometime, you know. But there's no way I could ever do that, at least now. And then when you offered up the camp, I thought, you know, that's a great way to do it, so that I'm not out there alone. There's people around me. Yes, I ran by myself, but I wasn't alone. And you're right, it's not for the faint of heart, and you have to plan and you have to train for it. But it is doable if you take everything into consideration and you know, and go at it smart. So, you know, it's something that if people want to do, they should really work towards it and do it, because it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you don't have to go rim to rim to rim. You can go rim to river and back out. You know, or go rim to river, stay the night, hike to the north rim. I mean, you don't have to do it in one day like we did. But it's definitely something that if somebody has it kind of on their radar, they should definitely make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I went rim to river with a wrong turn for an extra 3 miles, and I was absolutely gassed. I mean,
Yeah.
At the end, I was absolutely gassed, but I haven't run over 5 miles in about 4 months. So, but anyway, but again, there's never in the 20 miles that I ran, I don't remember any easy terrain, except maybe when we were running across the top of that plateau, and I think that's what people need to take into consideration. And you need to talk to them a little bit about the temperature variation from the top to the bottom.
Well, so like what you're saying, for example, so when Aaron and I were at the last ranger station before the last ascent on the north side, and I think it was 5 miles to the top, and I was like, oh, it's only 5. Let's, you know, and we were discussing our water situation, and I in my head was thinking, oh, it's only 5. And I know I got to go to the top of the rim, but okay, so what? It's only 5. And he looked at me and he was like, that's going to take a long time. And I was kind of like, okay, what's long? He's like, probably up and back, maybe 4 hours. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even fathom it until I was like 2 miles into that, and I was just going, holy crap. Yeah, this is, you know, it's because it's 8,200 feet of elevation on the north rim. And the bottom of the canyon is 2,400. So you do that slow ascent before you do that last big chunk where you're just going, it feels like straight up. And it's crazy because I remember looking up and Aaron even asking me, like, can you see the trail? It's kind of a joke. And you couldn't see the trail. You had no idea where you were going. You just knew you were going up. And I was so glad that he was in front of me a couple of switchbacks because I could kind of have an idea of what was happening. And because you can't see the trail. And it plays mind games with you too. And so it was extremely mentally challenging on that north ascent. As well as the south, you know, coming out at the very end of the day. Yeah, that's a totally different story, different animal as well. But yeah, I mean, so I get what you're saying, Jeff, and that people need to understand that it's not for the faint of heart. You definitely have to plan and be somewhat trained to do it. Otherwise, plan to be out there a very, very long time.
Yeah, I was really, and it's interesting because I came away from there really, really excited. And I was really, really excited for one reason, for a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason being unfortunately, it was great to have all you guys there, the Patagonia team, the first time you met, and that was really cool. But what was better for me as a coach was seeing Rich and John and Shane and Don do the run and do, you know, whatever their thing was there and come out of there with the same kind of enjoyment. And to me, I say, geez, well, you know, for me, now there's a whole lot of preparation I know about, and I want to go back again. You know, I want to take another group back there again. But with a group, I can say, okay, well, this is what you need to prepare for. Because, you know, it was unfounded territory to me as well. So telling people how to prepare for it was a little bit difficult. But now, you know, we can go back, and I really want to go back and do another camp. Because, you know, these guys, and John, can you talk yet? Can we hear you yet? No, still can't hear you. But Rich, and you can weigh in on that. Then it's like, you know, you guys really had a good time. You're really, really challenged. We had fun. We didn't drink as much beer as we normally drink at camps, but that's because it goes to 9.
True.
Yeah. But I really think, you know, I really want to do it again. You know?
Well, I think you guys ought to do it again. But I've done that one thing. That was tough. I'm not saying I never would, but it's definitely crossed it off my list. That's a good big check mark. You know, I guess, have you guys seen the movie Men in Black, and that alien that goes inside the one first guy he captures and he stumbles around and can't walk? That's what my brother-in-law was calling me for 2 days after that, because every time I'd stand up, it was just this big stagger, and you know.
I saw a green squirrel too, and none of you guys had the opportunity to see the green squirrel.
Yeah.
I don't care if you believe me or not. That squirrel was green.
Did you drink
John, you want to jump in? Can we hear you now? Or?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey. So Jeff, did you drink the Colorado River? Is that what happened? Is that why you saw the squirrel?
Oh no, I didn't have anything to drink. Is why I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, just listening to all y'all talk. You know, we turned around probably right at that spot where it was the absolute worst, and we didn't get to experience those last, you know, 2.5 miles. I guess right before the was it Supai Tunnel. We, you know, like you were saying, it's only 5 miles. I remember having a conversation with Don. We had just passed Roaring Springs, and it was getting kind of hard, you know, and it was you're really exposed on that north section. It's very, very different. And we were starting to like have, you know, conversation about turning around, and I was like, man, it's only like 4 or 5 miles. Like, I can make it. And he's like, yeah, but can you make it back? You know, like, you know, that's 10 miles to get back to where we are, you know. So we pushed on a little further, thinking we would maybe see some of y'all coming down, and we got to where we were, and we hadn't seen anybody, and we started doing the math, and it had been, we didn't have filters or tablets or anything for water. And we calculated that we were about 3 hours from Phantom Ranch, and we'd been 3 hours from Phantom Ranch. So we're like, do we have 3 hours of water? No, you know. So we turned around, and I thought I would be depressed, you know, if I turned around short, and that didn't last long. I was kind of more scared, you know. And sure enough, Don ran out of water right around Cottonwood, coming back, and we were sharing the Camelback until I ran out, and then. It's only 2 or 3 miles, you know, to Phantom Ranch, but that was in that really exposed section between right before the box, and it was hot. We saw some campers. They gave us some hikers, gave us some water, and I did have a lemonade when we got to Phantom Ranch, and about an hour to get my thoughts together so we could make the climb out.
Yeah, and you know, people who don't understand Desert Sun, you know, they really don't understand Desert Sun. You know, it can be 60 degrees and Desert Sun wears you down.
Yeah.
It dries you out. And I think it was 80 degrees on the floor that day when we were down there. And Desert Sun can really be rough. You know, and here's some of the numbers that people should think about. Now, Aaron's done 5 crossings now, and what was a little over 12 hours for you moving time?
Yeah, about 13 this time around.
Yeah. And Brian went the day before, and so let's talk a little bit about the history of the people here. To put it into perspective, you know, what a challenge this run is. Now, Aaron has run how many 100-milers?
13 official.
1,300 milers with a couple of top 10 finishes, and he's talking 12, 13 hours it took you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian's a pretty accomplished 50-miler, and it took you guys, what, 14?
We went 14.5. Altitude was messing with us a little bit, being from Kansas City. But Kevin and I get ourselves into some gnarly situations. We like to say, fortunately, we're a little bit stronger than we are smart.
Yeah. Well, that's the case with most 100-milers, right? And John, it took you guys how long to go? What you went? What, 45 miles?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, I lost GPS a few times in the box. Yeah, 1540, I think, and we didn't even go as far as the other guys go. But you know, but I'm like a middle of the packer for ultra runner, middle of the packer ultra runner.
Rich did his first 100-miler at Rocky Raccoon a little bit ago, went 20 hours and was second overall in the Masters division in his first 100-miler. So we'll give Rich a little shout out there while we're on the air. And how long did it take you?
I think it was just over 14 hours.
Yes.
and that was, I was in survival mode. I had to get back.
Yeah, and we all know what a stud Sherry Ann is, you know, and with her Kona qualifiers and being a 10:15 Ironman and a 3:15 marathon or something like that. How long did it take you, Coach?
Moving time was total time was 13 and a half hours.
Yeah, and let's talk about the one thing we all had in common, and it didn't matter if you went 20 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles. It's coming home up that last ascent, because it doesn't matter how far you go. I would like to get the collective opinion of how many F-bombs were dropped going up that last ascent. Because I know every time I lifted my head from the trail and looked up at another switchback, I dropped one. And there's a lot of switchbacks.
I think Rich has a video that sums it up pretty well on Facebook.
I think that pretty much says it, doesn't it?
I know at one point Kevin asked, he was like, hey, do you got 14 miles left in you? I was like, I don't have a choice. We got to go. And the last 10 are up.
Yeah, I have to tell you, my favorite sign in the whole Grand Canyon was the sign that you're going down at about that 3-mile bathroom on Bright Angel, and there's a little sign there, and it says, going down is optional, going up is mandatory.
I don't think I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, none of us saw it going down, or I think we probably would have stopped at that point. I saw that on the way back up, because right at a point where I really didn't feel like going up anymore. I think everyone has to have the same experience. You look up, and some guy was running behind me saying, "Don't look up anymore." I said, "What, are you nuts? I need to not look up." And every time you look up, you see the switchbacks with people on them, especially as you're getting into the late afternoon and there's a lot of people, and you see the switchbacks with the people on them, the people who are going down, and then you look up again. I think the most disheartening thing that ever happened to me was when I said to the guy, how far do we have to go? And he said, oh, half mile, 5/8 at the most. And I think it took me another 25 minutes to go that last half mile. That's never happened to me in my life. And I'm going to drop the bomb on Sherry Ann, too, because we're in the car, and I get a text from her, and it says, I only have 1.5 miles to go. And I'm thinking, well, okay, Sherry Ann, she's going to be up in about 13, 14 minutes, right? And
right.
I looked over at Patty, and Patty said, relax. It's going to be about 20 or 25 minutes. I said, no. I said, she's probably moving 1.5 miles. How long did that last 1.5 miles take?
It felt like forever. It felt like forever. Because I was moving at a good clip prior to that. Like, even the first part of that ascent, I was like, okay, because you power hike at that point. There's no running. And I was holding like a good, 17-minute mile, power hiking.
I think power hiking is an over-exaggeration, too.
Well, it's ridiculous. And then it just got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is going to take me at least an hour, it feels like.
Yeah. And then you have the wise guy, Aaron, who gets up at the top and he's sitting there talking about running Bryce Canyon on the way home the next day, right?
No.
I did not run Bryce Canyon the next day.
He was talking about doing a rim to river the next day, and I was going, are you crazy? You are a machine. He didn't do that, but just the sheer fact that he was thinking about it, though, just goes to show what a talented runner he is.
Next time we will.
John, you still there?
I am still here.
Some more insight from the boys from Louisiana. I mean, you come from below sea level.
Just about, yeah. It's about, it fluctuates between, 30 and 32 feet.
Did any problems with the altitude or the elevation?
When we got there, the first day, we found a little trail behind the hotel, and we hiked on that, and we were all like, I'm a little winded. This is higher than where we normally are, but. By the time we got into the canyon, I didn't. Luckily, I was worried about it, but I didn't really feel any ill effects from that. So that was cool.
Listen, Brian, you guys have been out to my place in Colorado, and you've gone up over the top at 13,000 feet. And Rich, you come from sea level, and Brian, you're Kansas City. I don't know, what's Kansas City, 10 feet?
700 to 1,000.
But you guys have always handled that change pretty well because of your conditioning.
Yeah, and it wasn't too bad. I was power hiking pretty strong. It was hitting Kevin a little bit more than me, but I think I felt stronger because I got a little bit of extra rest helping him out. So, but he's a talented runner. It was just one of those. He had a personal demon that settled at the canyon, so I think it was probably a little more in his head than anything. But he settled it, so it's all good.
How about you, Rich? What's the three elevations in Florida twice now, once in Colorado, once in the Grand Canyon, and I don't remember you having any problem in Colorado. I really don't remember you having any problem in the Grand Canyon.
I was blaming the altitude for my huffing and puffing trying to climb up the two walls, but I really think it was just trying to make the climb. On that last climb up, I was about maybe a mile or so from the top. My fingers started getting really numb and tingly, and I looked down and my fingernail beds were blue. And I thought, well, that's really odd, am I low on sodium or what's the deal? I did some research since and found out that your body naturally does that to divert blood flow to carry oxygen to the muscles that are working, which is a pretty cool thing, I think. But that just shows, how hard I really get up over that wall. That was something. So it wasn't the altitude; it was the elevation.
Yeah, elevation. I had that. I think it was my second year in Colorado doing trail camps here, and I was talking to a woman in the bar in Pine Bluff Springs where I lived, and I said to her, "Yeah, the altitude, didn't really affect." She goes, "We don't have. It's not altitude; it's elevation." She said, "Airplanes have altitude." I was like, "Excuse me." When you get up to 13,000 feet, going up over a flat top mountain, it's altitude.
Yeah.
But again, and I tell people this all the time, if you come in shape, there's a couple of things that really benefit you when you come into elevation like that. One, both of you guys live in high humidity areas, and humidity is made up of water molecules, and water molecules take up oxygen, so you're operating at a little bit of humidity all the time, so the elevation doesn't have a severe effect on you. And being in condition, being in shape and in good condition really helps as well. And again, it's that, come in no more than 2 days before thing. Get your big run out of the way in the first couple of days while you're there, before your body starts to go through the change of the lesser air availability. But Aaron, you're from Pocatello. What's the elevation of Pocatello?
Elevation here is around 45, but I do most of my running between about 5,000 to 8,000, so I didn't notice much if any difference there.
Yeah, it's funny, the elevation didn't bother me, and I've been at sea level now for, I don't know how long have I been here at sea level, about a month and a half, and I actually find it now more comfortable. It's funny because at sea level you can run harder all the time. It doesn't matter. When you live at elevation, you're always working hard. I don't care if you live there. I lived at 8,000 feet, and it really doesn't matter. You live at 8,000 feet, when you're running, you're working hard. And it's not like no one ever really gets accustomed to running at 8,000 feet. What happens is that when you come down to 5,000 feet, you feel a whole lot better than most people do. But now here at running at sea level, it's like, this is great. You can run again and actually have oxygen all the time. Talk to me, fellas.
Actually, I have a quick question for Sherry Ann, Rich, and Aaron. If y'all can hear me all right.
Uh-huh.
I just want to make sure that Don and I weren't hallucinating, because we saw something on the north side. Right about after Roaring Springs, we were heading up. We were kind of looking for you guys, and kind of expecting maybe to see somebody coming back. And then sure enough, we see somebody comes running down the trail from the direction of the north rim. Older guy, mustache, and we tell him hi, and he runs, right by us, headed down. And we're like, where did he come from? Because he had to be ahead of us, and he couldn't have started at the north rim because it's closed. So he either did like some sort of out and back somewhere between all of us, or or he did rim to rim, like he got up at 4 in the morning and went out before any of us. But if y'all never saw him, then he had to like be in that sweet spot in between us.
No,
We did see him.
He didn't he?
Oh, you did see someone.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Because he said to us, he's like, "Oh, I thought I was the only crazy person out here."
Oh,
He was not the only crazy person out there.
Yeah, he passed a few more on the way out. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, he was he doing rim to rim to rim?
No, I think he was staying
know.
down at the bottom by the river.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, there were a lot of people I ran into on coming back who had, stayed down by the river. And is another option for a camp later on in the year is,
Well, if
run
I would-
down in or hike halfway down in and then run up to the North Rim and down and then run out the next day or something.
Yeah. If I went again, Jeff, that's
Back.
if I went again, that's what I would think about doing is be from Phantom Ranch just out to the North Rim and back. And I was like, oh, that should be really doable. Then I thought that's still 30 miles, and 30 tough ones. But you get the uphill done first, and then the downhill, and you're back to Phantom Ranch.
Yeah, I would
Almost
like to think about what are the easy 10 or 15 miles there because I don't think I ever saw those. We had an easy mile and a half. When we went left at the creek at the bottom of Indian
Gardens.
When we went left instead of right, we got up on that plateau that you see from the top, the trail that goes across the plateau. And that was a mile and a half pretty flat out and then a mile and a half back. And then we turned to go back down to the river and it's like, oh, this is pretty flat too. And then you just that drop down to the river and it's like, oh, no, we've got to climb out of this too.
Well, coming back from the pump station back to Phantom Ranch is a nice roll. I mean, you can get up some good steam, and it's generally downhill. That's a great run. If I could just do that portion over and over and over, that'd be awesome.
It was full sun though.
Yeah, it was sun, but it was at least I was going downhill instead of uphill for a change.
Yeah, well, we had great weather. You can't complain about the weather. And people say, well, how did you dress at 19 degrees? I said, well, we all had shorts on. I had shorts on, and I don't think we were a mile and a half down into the canyon, and I was already starting to feel the warm from the temperature change.
Yeah.
It was fast.
Yeah, we stopped and started shedding our first layers right there at that. I think it was a mile and a half in, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was at the first aid call box. I looked there for your clothes on the way back.
I grabbed them.
Yeah.
I looked at that box for a different reason on the way back.
I stashed clothes in it.
Yeah. I was like, okay. Well, they send it. I'm thinking, okay, how if you call from there, how do they come to get you? Do they send in a helicopter, or does someone just come down and walk out with you? Because if someone just comes down and walks out with you, I might as well just keep on going.
I do think that's an interesting place for a call box, but I mean, only because you are a mile and a half from the top, which, yeah, is only a mile and a half, but it's,
Yeah, if you're not in shape, that would, that'd be where you would realize that you were in trouble, I guess.
Yeah. The big mistake I made was at the bottom of these, right before the ascent, I sat down and I drank the last of my genuine and the last of my water, because in the back of my mind, I remembered at that 3 mile point, there was a water thing there, but I didn't even think it wasn't going to be open. And so I had to go all the way back up without any water. And by the time I got to the top, thank God for that lady who lived in the desert her whole life giving me a bottle of water. But I've been laying there when you guys came. I wasn't moving. I was jumping.
That's one of the great
and I was only a switchback from the top. Famous last words. How many times did you hear that from people? You only had 3 more switchbacks.
Yeah.
3 more switchbacks.
Yeah, and they're lying, so it's 8.
Yeah. It was, but an epic trip, and I'm glad you guys had fun because I sure had fun with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the cool thing that I don't think people realize too is, there's the main Colorado River at the bottom that you cross before when you're going down towards Phantom Ranch. But even after you leave Phantom Ranch, there's finger rivers that feed into the Colorado River, and I think that makes it super pleasant having those rivers because it creates a lot of greenery, and so it's not just totally barren to where, and then you get the Colorado River, and then it's barren to the north side. There's always water. You know, it's the river water, but you can filter. But yeah, and I think that, to me, there was a point when I was coming back from the north side, and it was kind of like that channel area where it was really narrow and the walls were really high and the river was running through. And the sound of the river, and it was just, I don't know, it was so peaceful. That was one moment that I was just like, I am so glad I am here. I mean, it was just, there were several moments throughout that whole run where it was just kind of magical. But the sound of the river for me was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's, you can't stop taking pictures. That's the other thing. You know, everywhere you look, the camera comes out, and then you turn, you know, you rotate 2 degrees, and the camera comes out, and you rotate 2 degrees. I mean, it just never stops. It never stops overwhelming you. That was the amazing thing about it. And I'm not easily overwhelmed. I lived in the Rockies for 19 years, and I told all you guys, and all my years in Colorado, thinking it's the most beautiful place in the world. I was never as awestruck as I was by the Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason I've been back there, you know, to do that 5 times. It's always fantastic and just an incredible run.
Yeah, Patty's already talking about it. We get done with Ironman Chattanooga, going back there and doing it in October. He wants to go all the way over and back.
She can do it.
I don't think I stopped smiling on that trip until Cottonwood.
Yeah.
Not that it was bad. It was just, you know.
And then you never smiled again.
And then never smiled again. I still have it.
Yeah, I don't think I smiled once coming back. Except when I went down and finished my Genucan, and I burped because I didn't think anyone was there, and I turned and there was this girl and her husband walking by. You know, I let out a belly burp, you know, and I went, oh! They laughed. Yeah, you'll do the same when you're on your way back.
You know, a funny story, when we were dropping down in before we got to the Colorado River, I had come in out of this really narrow canyon area into a little wider opening, but I was facing a wall, and then it was on the left. And it, you know, you get caught up in the moment, and I kind of let out a whoop, you know, just an excited, you know, yell or whatever. Of course, it echoes off the canyon walls. I make the corner down into the next gully, and there's 2 people standing there wide-eyed. They're like, "Oh my God, we didn't know what was coming at us." I told myself, I just get caught up in the moment, you know. Couldn't help it. Yeah, but it definitely takes hold of you.
Anything they want to add?
Well, Rich is talking about the descent in made me think Kevin and I were ducking bats because we started at 4 a.m. from South Kaibab, and Kevin's headlamp was way brighter than mine, and he kept ducking in front of me and batting his arms like, "What are you doing?" And I was thinking, I can't handle another 35 miles of the crazy person. And what it was, the bats kept flying in front of his headlamp and buzzing his ears, eating the bugs that the headlamp was attracting. And then it was pretty humorous. And I dropped far enough back that they were doing mine too. But that was a pretty neat experience.
I'm glad you told me that now. I hate bats.
Hey, Aaron.
You know, I thought I did, but they came close, but I didn't even feel the wind from them. I mean, you know, just more of a flash in front of your eyes. It was not that big a deal. And descending in South Kaibab, the other cool thing is you've been going for a while, and all of a sudden you go through this tunnel, and it kind of arcs to the left a little bit. All of a sudden, boom, there's the Black Bridge right there.
That's pretty cool. Hey, Aaron, did we get a Toshi sighting before we go?
I'll see what I can do.
For those of you out there who don't know, Toshi is Aaron's little guy, and he's like the cutest little guy in the entire world.
He is so cute.
Yeah. Does anyone else, Rich? John, you got anything you want to add? Sherry Ann?
No, I just, I was actually able to run today. You assigned me something, so I had to go and do that. A free run, so. My legs are back. I'm, feeling pretty good. Tried to put some of the form techniques, into play since it wasn't a heart rate run or a tempo run or anything. It was just a free run, so
yeah,
I could focus on that.
couple of great shout outs too. Ultimate Direction. We roll Ultimate Directions up. They're the sponsor of our Patagonia race team. Big shout out to them. Thank you for your great stuff. And now Garmin has come on board with our Patagonia race team, so we're really, really excited. There he is. There's the man over there. There's Toshi. He must look like his mother.
Hmm.
So yeah, and Garmin is now come on as a sponsor, and I can't wait to see some of the great footage that we get over the next year of training. Some stuff we can put up and share with the movie company. For people who are watching or listening to the show later on, Pipeline Digital Media was out there. We spent all day Thursday with them. A lot of footage. And in the beginning, Adam called, and I'm pretty sure that Adam wants to talk about his conversation with Robert De Niro's agent today. So, that could be some exciting stuff. De Niro may be narrating the movie. We've been trying to work on a deal with De Niro. As many of the folks know, our team is racing for Zero the End of Prostate Cancer, and Robert De Niro is a prostate cancer survivor. So his camp is interested at this point. So hopefully we can pull that off. And Bobby will help us out and narrate the movie. Oh, Toshi, thanks for joining us. Not to me anymore. If you guys don't have any time, anything else to add, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for coming to the camp. I love doing camps. This was Sherry Ann's first experience doing a camp.
Yep.
I love doing camps because I like to meet teammates. You all know how I love to pull out my little camera to look at everyone's form too. I never get enough of that. But I had a really, really, really good time. Patty had a really, really good time. Sherry Ann, I know we talked about it. Had a great time. So I'm glad you guys were all there.
It was a fantastic experience. I really did enjoy watching you whip out your iPad and do gait analysis and see that firsthand. So that was fun.
All righty. Well, to all our listeners, you can reach Sherry Ann at coach@prsfit.com, me at prsfit@gmail.com. Our website is prsfit.com. The Patagonia Race Team website is USA Team PRS Fit Patagonia. Is that what it is? .com or USAPatagonia.com? I should know that, but I don't know that. Anyway, you can find that. And if you have any questions, shoot us an email, give us a call. We're happy to answer. As always, be healthy, train smart. This is Coach Jeff.
This is Coach Sherry Ann.
You all have a great night. We'll talk to you next week.
Right.
Have a good night.